Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Benue in Nigeria. Every state of Nigeria has a little nickname, and Benue's is the food basket of the nation. It's like every country has their bread basket or rice bowl, so on and so forth, depending on what's grown there. And this is apparently one of Nigeria's. The bread basket. You can hear a little trigger over there. I have a surprise for you guys after the video. I guess I'll just show you now. So typically in my videos, we go over geography, we go over history, and then we go to Google Earth and we look around the region. But pictures of Nigeria on Google Earth are just notoriously bad. It's like every time I have a new state of Nigeria, I get so excited because I love Nigeria. And I go to Google Earth and the pictures are just like the outsides of houses, just like regular people's houses, not even like historic areas. It's a lot of selfies. Or, for example, here in Makurdi, the capital, you can see the Benue River coming through here and making up the border, hence the name of the state, Benue. The slideshow for this town is literally about 18 pictures of the same spot on the river, just at slightly different angles. And I'm not about to set up my tablet and film all that just to show you the same picture over and over again. So unfortunately there isn't going to be a tablet portion, but I thought just to make the video a little more interesting, we would have a fun trigger at the end. And typically I get Topple the elephant to rub the microphone and make some nice noises with his soft ears, but from what I can tell, there are no elephants in Benue. It's not very wild. It's a farming region, so there's no national parks, there's no wild areas, there's no elephants. Maybe there is. You guys have to correct me if you know better, but from what I can tell, there's no elephants. So I thought, well, what's a fun trigger we could do? And then I realized it's the food basket. What food do you think of when you think Nigeria? First thing, yams. So I got from my pantry this little friend that we're going to tap and play with. So yeah, stay tuned for the end of the video for yam ASMR. Anyway, the Benue River flows through here. There are lots of other rivers, as you can see. There's the, make sure I get this right, the Katsina-Ala River as well, through Katsina-Ala. Benue borders Cameroon just barely right there, little tiny border with Cameroon. And like I said, Makurdi is the capital, but there are at least two other towns that are important culturally to Benue. The town of Koboko, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, I hope so, Koboko, is the ancestral home of the Tiv people. And that is where the Tortiv sits on the throne. There is also the town of Otukpo right here, which is the ancestral home of the Idoma people, which is where the Ochidoma sits on the throne. And again, I hope I'm saying all that right. We're mainly going to talk about the Tiv culture. It's definitely the most dominant ethnicity here in Benue, but there are many other. It is Nigeria. Nigeria is so ethnically diverse. I feel like each state has its majority, but there are many peoples within each state of Nigeria. Benue is no exception, but it's mainly known as the home of the Tiv people. The Tiv people have a really beautiful dress, like a ceremonial. I don't think they wear it every day, which is striped black and white. And the theory, the legend, is that before the Tiv people moved here, they were in more Central Africa, where they hunted zebras and, used their hides as clothes, but when they moved here, there's no zebras, so they still wear striped black and white. Who knows if that's true or not? I think that's nice. I like that. Let's do some brief history here. The history is not nearly as extensive as most of Nigeria, since it's pretty much just farmland. That's pretty much it. Actually, in the town, where was it? Did I write down? Oh, I didn't. I'm pretty sure it was in Katsina Ala here. Yeah, it had to have been Katsina Ala. I didn't write it down. An archaeological find has found some really neat terracotta statues, which look very much like the terracotta from the Nok culture, which isn't too far away. Kaduna State is just up here, where those artifacts have been found. And if you've never seen the Nok, like, I guess statues, they're almost like busts. It's pretty much like Benin bronzes, but terracotta. They're really beautiful. They found similar to those here in Benue State, along with evidence of ironworking dating back to the 3rd century BCE. So people have lived and thrived here for a long, long time. Of course, being farmland. Of course they have. But sadly, pretty much almost the entire human population here was depleted due to slave raids in the slave industry. I read a source that said all of the humans were gone. I don't believe that, since I've also found sources saying that there are small populations in the main towns here. So I'm pretty sure that most people were captured and sold into slavery here. Eventually, of course, the British would come and lay claim to this region here. And in 1914, they realized that they needed someone to control this area. Like I said, the Tiv people is the predominant culture here. At this point, they did not have like a king or a ruler. Pretty much just the oldest person in the town was in charge, and when they died, it would go to the next oldest person in town, and they weren't even like a ruler or king. They just made sure everything was going well. Everything was going peacefully. I'm sure they overheard arguments and things and settled that, but it wasn't anything like a king or a tribal leader or anything like that. So when the British took over, they called this area Tivland, because of course they did. It was colonial British people. They're terrible at naming places. They were like, well, we need to put in a ruler to control this area. So they went to the Hausa people. The Hausa traditionally live in northern Nigeria up here. And they installed a Hausa man in charge of Tivland, which was like, kind of upsetting that they didn't ask someone from the actual tribe if they wanted to rule. But I feel like probably the British were trying to give a little handout to the Hausa culture. Probably they're more trying to consolidate their assets, to be honest. Like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible example, but right now in my freezer I have a box of ice cream sandwiches and a box of ice cream bars, and I've been eating the ice cream sandwiches, so I just put the last of those into the box of ice cream bars to free up more space in the freezer. It was probably like that. Not that I'm comparing human beings to ice cream, I'm just saying most likely they were trying to consolidate. They were getting people who were working with them, cooperating to help out with other areas. Just who knows? I don't know. From what I read, that seems like what they were trying to do, but that would become an issue. But first I have to mention that Makurdi did not exist until 1927. It was established as a stopover for the railroad that went on to Port Harcourt, which you can see down here. Very, very important town to Nigeria's economy, right here on the Gulf of Guinea coast, the Niger Delta, which we just talked about in Bayelsa. Port Harcourt's right there. But the population here is mainly Tiv as well, since they just filtered right in, right? In 1945, the House person that they put in charge of this region unexpectedly passed away. So the people here are like, oh, what do we do? So the British were like, well, obviously we're going to install his son to run things. And the Tiv here were like, no. And they put their foot down and said, no, we don't want to be ran by outsiders. We want to be ran by ourselves. And there was a huge riot in Makurdi in 1946 led by the Tiv, or of Tiv people, saying, stop it. Don't do this. We are perfectly capable of ruling ourselves. And thankfully, they were listened to because they were allowed to elect a leader for the first time in their cultural history. So they created a king person that they called the Tortiv, who still rules over the Tiv regions of Benue State today. And just settle that conflict in the best way possible. Just give the people what they want. And it's worked out wonderfully. Benue State was created in 1976. Nigeria is a relatively new country in the world, as most of countries in West Africa are. So there was a lot of political shuffling here and there, especially in Nigeria. We're not going to get into other parts of Nigeria that were issues at this point, but that was when Benue State was established and still is there today, and still being very charming. And that is essentially the history of Benue State, which is, like I said, it's very short, which is why I wanted something extra for you. So why don't we have some fun with this? Actually, technically, it's a sweet potato, so I'm going to move my camera up a bit more so you can see more sweet potato. So here in America, it turns out that we say sweet potato and yam interchangeably. And I learned today I learned that yams and sweet potatoes are not the same thing at all. They're very similar, but they are not the same thing. But in America, we call sweet potatoes yams and we call yams sweet potatoes. And I learned that that's because of slavery. Dun, 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 of course it is. When people were brought over from Africa against their will to work in farms, they saw one of these and said, that's a yam. And in fact, it was a sweet potato because it looks like a yam. So in America, that's just kind of stuck to culture, and we say sweet potatoes are yams, and we say yams are sweet potatoes. Even though I'm sure in Nigeria, they would eat this and be like, what in the world is this? This is not a yam. So that's interesting yam fact I learned today. This was made to be microwaved, apparently. Microwavable. Which I'm not going to do. I'm going to cook these in my air fryer, roast them up. But, yeah, let's adjust. Let me pull my microphone down and let's just end this video with some sweet potato / yam sounds. Here we go. Let me move this down. Okay. Wait, you can't see. You can't see. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to move it up. I wonder if I can. Oh my gosh. Here we go. really close to the mic. You're not gonna be able to see anything. You're gonna see niche hair and all that. But I'm gonna get it really close. I hope that was sufficient. Sorry about the bad angle. I should have reset up a shot of yam ASMR. If you're still like, what in the world is happening? Yams are a very large part of Nigerian traditional cuisine, and many of them are grown in Benue. If you didn't know, I probably should have said that off the bat, but yeah. Anyway, that is all that I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this style of content, please consider subscribing. I am not going to be tapping on a yam in the next video, but in the next video we will have our tablet back. Not only will we be using Google Earth, but I get to show you a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Pretty awesome. Hold on. Let me fix this now. I'm all out of sorts. There's Benue. There's sweet potato. Anyway. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. If you've never seen pictures of the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, you definitely don't want to miss out. It is so beautiful. Please give a like for the sweet potato sounds. And don't forget to comment down below. I do hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night. Good night. Good night.